Commissioner Goldberg,
Present.
Commissioner Peters,
Present.
Commissioner David,
Present.
Vice Mayor Stern,
Present.
Mayor Moore,
Present.
Town Manager Labadie.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay, if we could all rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And just a reminder to silence your devices, please. Any changes to the agenda? There are no changes to the agenda. Can we have a motion?
I move that we accept the agenda as presented. Second.
that, please.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Any public comments? Okay, moving along, ordinances. We have a proposed ordinance, an ordinance of the town of commission, of the town commission of the town of Highland Beach, amending section 4-8, lighting restrictions for the protection of sea turtles and coastal lighting. So,
As Ingrid gets set up with our pile of research and work to date, just as a reminder from our last meeting, the commission had indicated several items as it related to what people would say personal effect changes inside condos and the like. Those were moved to recommended course of action. So it's up to the homeowner, and education hopefully will compel them to do those items. The other items were the shading, lighting fixtures, window tint. Those would be on new construction. So when a new home is constructed, or a condo, or a major renovation, then you would have to come into compliance with the procedures on the front half of the ordinance. But those back half items like moving your TV and things of that nature, we had set to recommendation only. And that's kind of where we're at currently. And then Ingrid could give you the history again. I'll just kind of highlight it. And Ingrid, you just jump in with the details. Again, this has gone to the Natural Resource Advisory Board. It has gone to the Planning Board. We've probably been working on this about 8 months, 10 months, somewhere around there. So, and it is a strategic priority item of the commission. So with that, Ingrid, do you want to kind of get us caught up on the more of the details?
Yeah, absolutely. Just to give you some actual dates with regards to where this item has been. It did come to the town commission on October 18th. It was introduced to you on that date. If you recall, with some new commissioners, but at that point, the commission had asked us to forward it to the Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission, to Gumbo Limbo, and asked for some changes to the long wavelength description that's in the ordinance, to add some colors to represent what that means. So those changes were made. February 1st of 2023 was routed to the Natural Resources Board. Again, the commission had given direction to staff to have the board review it. They did recommend approval. They made some minor changes. Those were provided on the ordinance back on April 4th, which is also included in your packet. And then it went to the planning board because we are revising a small section of the zoning code. So they are required to make a recommendation. They made a recommendation to approve it on March 9th. And here we are. We had the first read on April 4th. So we are back. And I just wanted to go over some of the commentary from the commission that you all made on April 4th. Some of the discussion items. Again, I've documented this in your staff memorandum, which is on page 4. So there was a concern from the commission that the proposed long wavelength lighting, again, which is that amber, that red lighting, may not provide safety or security. Now I've gone ahead to the Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission webpage, again, a wealth of information. And according to the FWC, lights that are needed for safety and security should not be turned off, as this may cause a safety hazard. Instead, they should obviously be modified to meet their 3 golden rules, which again is on page 4 of your packets, to keep these fixtures low to the ground, to keep the lamps and the bulbs long wavelength, again, the red, the amber, those are the lights that do not disorient the turtles, and then to keep it shielded. Shield on top of a bright white light brings the light downward, to move the fixture downward. So that's what the FWC recommends. And sometimes it's just as simple as repositioning a light. You may have a light that shines up in the sky. All you have to do is go like that to it. You don't necessarily have to buy a new fixture. Sometimes it's as simple as repositioning a light. So something to be mindful for today's meeting. Now, the FWC says that if a fixture cannot be sufficiently modified, then it can be replaced with a certified wildlife lighting. Now, if you recall in the ordinance, we provide some reference to the certified wildlife lighting. Now, if we go to the PowerPoint, Linelda, at your April 4th meeting, if you recall, I provided you 3 slides. I gave you some examples of these full cutoff, downward facing lights. I'm going to show you those again, just to refresh your memory. And I've added some additional turtle-friendly lights that are part of this certified wildlife lighting. So let's take a look at those. Again, the first 3 slides, you saw these on April 4th. This is, again, my sources, the Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission. These are examples. I give a bad example of a light that's not shielded. Well, the bulb here is not shielded. So again, very important that the lights are shielded. Here's an example of a shielded bulb, right? The bulb is not, on the outside here. It's within the fixture, and it's got that red amber light. Next slide is to keep it, again, the long wavelength. Here you have a bad example, a bright white incandescent bulb. The turtles see this and they get disoriented. The hatchlings, they think they're going to the brightest horizon in the ocean, and they're going towards possibly a condo retaining wall. And then you have here a good example, again, that red light facing downward. Next one is, let's see. I think it throws one of them. Can you move it? Oh, there it is. Okay. Oh, 1, 2. Okay, there we go. The unshielded light, again, bright white light. The full cutoff is you put a little pad on it, for lack of a better phrase, you shield it, right? So that light faces downward. Now, here's some additional lights that I'm providing you today. Again, these come from the certified wildlife lighting standards. And here you have some examples of the wall fixtures. And these here, I've only given you 4 examples, but if you go to the certified wildlife lighting website, you'll have 81 pages of wall fixtures that are turtle friendly. This is just 4, but there's 81 pages. Here's some examples of, oh, I think it's stuck again. But maybe I should face it this way.
There you go.
Oh, there it goes. Okay. Did I miss one? I missed 2. Thank you. Too fast. Okay, so here's some examples of pole structures. Again, I have 6 here, but if you go to the certified wildlife lighting website, you'll have 12 pages of pole fixtures. Next is the bulbs. Here are about 10 examples. There's 18 pages of bulbs that are turtle friendly. And I have one more here. Oh, I went too far. Walkway fixtures. Again, you have 5 examples here. If you go to the certified lighting, it'll be 27 pages of walkway fixtures. Now, also as part of the certified lighting, wildlife lighting, you have fixtures for ceiling mounted lamps, step lighting, there's lighting for bollards, there's roadway lighting, there's bullet tape LED lighting, and there's even fixtures that are turtle friendly for underwater lighting. Again, all on the website. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Another item that was discussed on April 4th is that you, again, as Marshall mentioned, you wanted to consider some sort of a phasing period for these regulations. So we have amended some of the language that's in the proposed ordinance, and I've bolded the language and double strike through if it's where we're suggesting to remove it, or double underline if it's newly proposed, so you can distinguish between was already in the ordinance and what's some of the new language as a result of your comments from April 4th. So if you go to section 4-8E, I provided the modifications on page 4 of your packet, but if you want to go to the actual ordinance, it's page 10. So what we've done here is, this is specific for the standards for existing interior lights affixed to new structures, new construction, and improvements to existing structures. And Marshall, as Marshall mentioned, you wanted these to trigger if it requires a building permit. So if it requires a building permit, then you have to comply with the provisions that follow right below that. We've also made some changes to the section 4-8J. This is on page 14 of your packets if you want to see the actual ordinance. This is again for existing exterior and interior lighting. So we've added here for existing exterior, upon replacement and only if a building permit is required, the reduction or elimination of the negative effects of existing exterior, artificial lighting shall be required through the use of the following measures. So those measures have stayed the same, the repositioning, the replacement, providing shields, that's all stayed the same. And then the last change we made is to, again, 4-8J, but number 2, again, page 6 in your packets on the staff report or page 15 on the ordinance. So here, this is for the existing structures, this is specific to the interior lights, okay? So we basically say that if you have an existing structure, we're encouraging you to make these remedial measures, okay? So, which is to apply the window tint, rearrange televisions, lamps, so on and so forth. Now, I do want to bring to the commission's attention, on page 18 of your packets, I provided you a table which shows the the existing interior light regulations for Palm Beach County and for Boca Raton. Keep in mind, Delray Beach has adopted Palm Beach County's sea turtle lighting regulations. So just to give you perspective of what our neighbors to the north and what our neighbors to the south have in their code. So for the existing interior lights, Palm Beach County states window treatment shall be required. It's a shall. On all windows visible from the beach, blackout draperies or shade screens are preferred. Alternately or additionally, window tint may be applied to beachfront windows. And then they make a statement that turning out of all unnecessary interior lights during the nesting season is strongly encouraged. Okay. Now, Boca Raton, their interior light requirement is window treatments in all windows visible from the beach, regardless of exposure, are required. So it's a shall here. So that interior lights do not directly or indirectly illuminate the beach. So we're taking a step further back. Just want to make sure you're aware of that. And lastly, I did want to address, I know there was an email circulating, and I want to just pull that up real quick just to correct that email. There was a statement that there is current state code with regards to turtle glass and beach lighting. I do want to advise the commission that there was some rules that were in the Florida Administrative Code. A lot of those rules were adopted in 1993. Please keep in mind that those were all repealed in December of 2020. And what came out of that repeal is the state model lighting ordinance. Let me read you directly from state statute, which is the section 161.163. Says the department, which is the Department of Environmental Protection, shall adopt by rule a designation of coastal areas which are utilized or likely to be utilized by sea turtles for nesting. And here's the important statement. The department shall also adopt by rule guidelines for local government regulations that control beachfront lighting to protect hatchling sea turtles. And the new Florida Administrative Code reads the State of Florida Model Lighting Ordinance for Sea Turtle Protection effective January of 2021, which is hereby adopted and incorporated and provides guidelines for local government regulations that control artificial lighting to protect sea turtles. If you remember back in April, I had mentioned to you that the ordinance that was proposed was based on the state model ordinance. So this model ordinance was created, right, to help local municipalities. Not everyone can draft up sea turtle like regulations. Most municipalities don't have sea turtle experts. So I just wanted to make that clear to the commission. I'm glad to address any questions you might have.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Ingrid. I guess, do we I'd like to call for public comments. Should we have anyone that wants to make a public comment? Joanne, you want to come up? Okay, that would be great. Or yeah, just if you could comment on this little piece.
Well, I wanted to share with you guys a letter that I received from the Sea Turtle Conservancy. They are the oldest sea turtle protection nonprofit organization. I did bring some handouts for you guys. And the letter is attached to this. I'm not going to read it, but I'm just going to read the email that was said. Please find a statement attached from CLIC, the Coastal Lighting Impact Coalition, a group of comprising scientists, state and local conservation agencies, and conservation research nonprofits. Florida plays an important role in sea turtle protection and stewardship. Given that the state hosts over 90% of all the sea turtle nesting in the continental US, intersecting with these nesting beaches is a large, growing, coastally concentrated human population. Florida's natural resources and unique wildlife draw millions of visitors to our coast each year. Florida beaches serve both as our playground and as critical habitat for animals. We prepared this statement because there has been an increase in white flashlights and other handheld lighting devices used on the beach at night for recreational activity. Now, I know we're talking about flashlights, but it's also white light shining on the beach from its structures. These lights have been involved in the harassment of turtles, disorientations, and deterring females from nesting. Together, we'd like to spread the message to leave lights off the beach. Then I recently received another email, and we can get more into this, but in one paragraph from Stacy Gallagher from the Sea Turtle Conservancy, she states, the town of Highland Beach received a total score of less ideal, 25 to 1.5% on its lighting ordinance language and enforcement. More details about our methods can be found on the website, but please let me know if you'd like to meet to dive into details further. So I really wanted to mention that because the lighting ordinance is so important. But in the meantime, I have some literature for all of you. Can I pass it out?
Does she give to you? Yeah, I guess you give it to, and Joanne, if you don't mind stating your name and
Oh,
your credentials, I forgot.
sure. My name is Joanne Ryan. I am the Florida Fish and Wildlife permit holder for the town of Highland Beach Sea Turtle Program.
Perfect, thank you.
And I'll-
Okay. Any other public comments? About the ordinance? No, okay. So I guess I'll open it up to the commissioners. Does anyone want to jump in with any comments? Okay, Vice Mayor Stern.
Well, I think the ordinance are excellent. What was brought to my attention, and I'd like you to comment on it, is the window shading. Now, the areas that allow window covering and so forth in season, that's not turtle season, they can open it up and it'd be clear. If they're forced to have the high tinting 45% year round, that affects their ability to do that. Can you, and if we're not giving people an option to go one way or another, does that restrict them?
Well, again, the ordinance, if you, let's look at the ordinance. It's, let's see here. Let's go to page. Gonna look at the new. Here we go. Bear with me, or I find it by page. Oh, page 10 of your packets. So for, again, new structures, new construction and improvements to existing structures, again, that require a permit. Yes, you'll have to provide the 45% transmittance.
So would you
less.
comment on the question that the resident asked? Is that not restricting them for non-turtle season? The option.
It
of
does.
having
I mean, the
clear-
tint is on the window.
Yeah.
Again, your neighbors to the north and south have that requirement of 45% tint, but you're right, it's on there. And you can't really peel it off. I'm not aware of any tint that you can, peel
So
off.
my real question is, we're not giving an option to either go to 45% or put window coverings. It's one way only. You can only go 45.
That's
that-
correct. For the
okay.
new construction and,
I understand.
yeah, for the new construction, again, improvements to existing structures or new structures per the way the ordinance is written and per the state model, it is required to have the tinting.
Just to this issue, I also requested, but I guess it was a little bit too late due
Yeah.
to the weekend, that we actually could see sample of what 45% means physically, not on the picture,
Right,
but actually see
yes.
the different degrees so that we can make a judgment based upon actually more knowledge.
Yes, and I discussed that with the town manager this morning. I suggested I could reach out to some vendors and see if they could provide us with some sort of glass with some, various tinting. I'll be happy to reach out to them, and the next meeting we can bring those if they're available. Yeah.
Thank you. Those were my-
Okay, but
Town manager.
expand the staff response. Mr. Remus, most new construction are you seeing it with the tinting?
Does he need to come up?
Okay,
Does he need-
okay. Okay, no, I just wanted to, so basically, it's kind of an open, I spoke with a builder today who believed it was state law. So everything that they're building, they're putting the turtle lighting at 45% because of adjacent communities. So, but again, one of the reasons why we got to this point is the confusion. The difference between glass and shading. If it's shading, it puts us on the beach. It puts us into personal space requiring it. So if we walk the beach, we're gonna have to write down everybody's address and say, hey, I need you to close your shades tonight, or, that seems, can be that same concern that we had about, imposing in people's personal property as far as their day-to-day activities inside the home, seemed to be the reluctance of the commission to be into someone's home. So.
Commissioner Peters, you want to go? You have a question?
Oh, I got a question. It basically the same thing that Dave talked about. I don't know, in that same email, I guess you're talking about, they say Lauderdale allows shades instead of the tinted. Is that true? I don't know.
I'd have to check Fort Lauderdale, but again, even when you look at Palm Beach County, again, window treatment shall be required on all windows visible from the beach. So they talk about blackout drapes or shade screens are preferred. I mean, Palm Beach County does that.
Yeah, no, my problem is that we just did our windows on our condo. And we have all sides, everything is glass. So we did it 4 years ago. Now, if somebody replaces them, they'll need a permit, and then they got to tint it.
No, well, it depends.
If they got to get a permit to replace, I guess, all the glass on their condo,
Right, if it's,
then they would
it's
have to tint it.
improvements to existing structures that requires a building permit, but if you're just doing exterior lighting, you're
No,
changing out an existing light, then.
yeah, but I'm just
obviously-
talking about if they replace the glass and they got to get a building permit for
Yes.
that, then they got to get tinted, then your building's gonna look like a checkerboard. That's,
Until everyone eventually comes
everyone-
into
well,
compliance. I
yeah,
mean,
we just got them 4
Yeah.
years ago, so we're not gonna.
Yeah, I think that scenario you see replicated throughout the coastal
Okay,
areas, right, where you have these regulations and sometimes it takes time for older community or condos to kind of catch up. Yeah.
thank you.
You
Commissioner
can
Vogel?
take it one step further, which is if one of your sliders breaks and you have to replace it, then you've got one that's tinted dark and the rest that aren't. So what do you do in a situation like that?
But that's
sort
how
of
it would
the
work.
reality of-
Clarify
yeah.
that is how it would work, correct? If you only need to replace one window and it requires a permit, then you would be required to tint that one. And you would, that's how it would work, right?
Yeah.
So that we would understand. Okay.
According to the
Commissioner
way the
Gilbert?
ordinance reads, yeah. Improvements to an existing structure that requires a building permit. If Jeff, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, so somebody coming in to replace the slider on their condo unit, that triggers a permit, right? Obviously to change a, yes.
And is it only limited to that one slider? Or would it be to the others right to the right and left? above
Any
and
window,
below?
right? Any window triggers a permit, a replacement of a window? Yes,
Just that one. Do
So
you,
if you have to replace one window, that means you have to replace all of them in the condo?
No. it's
No,
still one.
Because
No.
it's a triggering event.
I don't think that's the intent.
And I
That
guess
seems-
along the same lines, I do have a follow-up question too. So what if you needed a permit to replace your, so it's only the item that you're, that's permitting, right? So like changing out the floors, for example, that wouldn't trigger having to change the
No.
windows, right? It's just if you have to replace the window which would always trigger a permit, it's that one window that would be according to way that it's written now, that it would have to be.
Yeah,
um,
I think I see where maybe there's some confusion. Again, when you read 4-8E, again, it says standards for exterior and interior lighting affixed to new structures, new construction and improvements to existing structures. So improvements to existing structures. And then you go to existing exterior and interior lighting. So that's upon replacement and only, okay, building permit is required, the reduction, okay, so then it is required. But these are, the repositioning and all that type of wording. So maybe we can
Yeah,
clarify
well, if
that.
we want to even go
Yeah.
that way, but go ahead.
Yeah, I was
Maybe
just gonna
some
put that
thought.
down as a suggestion that if it's all new replacement or full construction, new construction, you could require the tint on existing buildings where it makes a pretty good point. If it's one off, give the option of tint or window shade. That way, there's some flexibility built in for a progressive remodeling of large structures. You could kind of go, if it's brand new, like if the condo say is replacing every single window, you could trigger the tint. But if it's here onesie twosies, then you give them the option. You
Yeah.
could do it this way or this, depending on the preference, and put that flexibility back to the property owner.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
maybe in that scenario, it'd be moved to the remedial or whatever that other section where it's a little bit more.
Or you could just give them an or option. So if it's an existing structure and it's not full replacement, it's this or this.
Yeah.
If
That makes
not,
more
if it's a
sense to
brand
me.
new construction from scratch, you
would
got to
do it.
put the windows in, and that
Right.
gets you there without overly invasive approach. Or you're right, that could look kind of odd, I guess, if you
Only replaced.
see one window is,
Yeah.
tinted, and it kind of could be kind of an odd look.
I mean,
Yeah, I think the state model ordinance doesn't provide that nuance. So, right, I think we could provide some language to make it a little bit more clear cut. Yeah.
And it's, of course, it affects the cost greatly to our residents. Now I have another nuance, which is a shade, many different kinds of shades. Now, do we have to clarify or put any standard with respect to that?
Shades. So
A
you-
shade can be very thin, porous. I mean, are we going to now have a regulation, that below the value below or up to 45%? Does
When
that
you-
have anything to do with it?
No, I mean, on the existing structures are encouraged to implement the suggested remedial. It says use opaque shades or room darkening window treatments, e.g. blinds, curtains, screens to shield interior lights from the beach. So it's pretty clear unless you would like more detail as to shade, but and that's on
Okay,
page
I
15.
I have another request. I know we don't have anything live to show us a sample
Yeah.
of the illumination, but do you have a photo that we can see?
Yes, we have the transmittance, it's in your packets.
My concern is maintaining safety. So that we can walk around properties, so we don't have older people falling, not having enough illumination. So it's a
Um,
balancing
Yeah.
test here.
If you go to, and we can go back to the PowerPoint, Linalda. It's on page 40 of your packets. This is that diagram that I provided to you on April 4th. Pull it up here. Yeah. Yeah.
So we don't have 45. We have the
We
50.
don't have 45. I have one here that showed 45. It's a little bit. right here.
That's dark.
but it's hard to see without actual.
it is.
Because I
I
don't
mean,
know that it's
it's-
that dark, because I think there are some structures that already have the 45. And I've been in them and I don't know that it's, in my opinion, it doesn't seem that,
Yeah,
that
it's
dark.
hard from a diagram perspective to see it, the detail.
Thank you.
Evelyn, do you?
I believe, I know years ago there were, so I can't believe that they don't exist now. But I had shades that let the light in, but didn't let it out. And they were fairly thin. So you wouldn't, I didn't live on the beach, so it wasn't an issue.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can get them that you can absolutely see through, but the light doesn't go the other way. There's a coating on the inside of it, I guess, or the outside that faces towards the window that doesn't let it through.
Yeah. I've reached out to two window companies. Very hard to get back information from them. I'm determined to hear from them and, you know, get a little bit more detail as far as the tinting process. So it'd have to obviously be at a future meeting, but yeah, yeah.
I mean, mine had a silver backing. It was kind of a marble color on the inside. It had a silver backing. And when they were down, you didn't see any light from that one outside. But it didn't stop the light from coming in.
I'll make a note of that, and when I hear back from them, hopefully I can ask them about this, yeah.
So I just wanted to ask about, just to make it perfectly clear about this, what is going on at the state level and how it applies to our municipality. So what the state has, like, like there is no specific rule right now. It's up to the municipality. So whatever is at the state level, it does not apply to us. It's our own municipal rules that apply. So that's why this is necessary.
Right.
And then I also just want to clarify, you had, it went through National Resources Board. It passed unanimously, which obviously are all Highland Beach residents. It went through Planning Board, this ordinance, the way that it is, which are obviously all Highland Beach residents, and it passed unanimously. Do you recall how this came up originally? I mean, was it the previous permit holder who was a Highland Beach resident? Is that how this came up originally? What brought this?
And maybe the town manager can touch on this. I think there was actually with Mrs. Joanne Ryan, I think came up to the commission to make some sort of presentation, if I remember correctly. And I think there was support from the mayor at the time, and that kind of triggered this whole process, and it got on the strategic priorities
right.
plan. I don't remember the exact order, but I don't know, Marshall, if you recall.
Mr. Remus. No, I think it really stemmed from a lot of confusion because you have
From the
developers that build Boca here, Delray, and all these communities would say, well, what's your standard, how this is? And we would say, no visible light. Well, what does that mean? No visible. So we were looking, in essence, that we had a lot of confusion on the permitting side and from the resident side. And then we do get our annual complaints of people that have really bright lights. And we have homes that have zero anything on the front of their house. You just go to the real estate, you could see right through the house in the middle of the night, and it's pretty bright. So the attempt was to begin to build a series of clarifications, if you will, on how we go forward at getting a permit or permitting with folks that sea turtles are quite important to us. It's kind of our heritage a little bit as a barrier island and how high volume of nesting we have. So we want to make sure we are continuing to protect that. Yet at the same time, you got to balance the ability to develop and use the property that comes at such high cost. So we were stuck in a spot trying to figure out how to fix that. And that's where it started from. Let's see what's out there. Let's begin to look at this. And that's how it started. Ingrid went out, found a model ordinance. Let's see how this looks. Come back to the commission. Let's have the boards look at it. The boards held meetings on it, discussed it, liked it. So that's kind of how we got there. But there was a lot of opaqueness. I'll use one of our words on the regulatory structure as to what could Mr. Remus do on the permit side when that's coming through, or people calling like, do I have to? How much? Not enough. This community requires this. What are you saying? Are you saying I don't have to? conceptually, yes, you don't need to do anything here in Highland Beach. You can just build. Not that it's a bad thing. I'm just saying we don't have that concern yet. We're very committed to our turtle group and protecting and working with them moving forward. So that's kind of how this all built, that we want to,
But clearly there's
Find
a
out-
lot of resident support, correct? I mean, you would
yeah,
agree
I,
with that statement.
until, last couple, 3-4 days, over the last 8 months, everybody's been quite supportive.
Okay.
I know when we brought it to the commission, there was some concerns getting into that private tutelage of the home and getting into your private space. I get that. So we're just trying to figure out, maybe there's a balance we can strike in there where, we progressively over time get to that protection, but not overdo it and kind of find that happy space or some space in the middle where we can meet, some compromise.
The other thing I find, and I don't know if you could comment, I don't know who would be the right person to answer this, but it seems like the exterior structures, the exterior lighting,
Yeah.
the covered lighting and the amber, that is pretty well received. People, I don't hear too much resistance on that.
Yeah.
Or correct me if I'm wrong. Is anybody? I-
I personally don't recall.
So I
don't
feel
know
like
if Jeff
that
has, but-
part of it. And so I also reached out to a condo manager of an old existing structure to kind of ask them what their opinion was on the lighting and the, 45. So in particular, it was Penthouse Towers. I tend to, ask them a lot because they're in an building built in 1970. So
Yeah.
how does an older established structure, how did they view that? And I guess I'll say their response I received was, of course, you have to do turtle, and I guess everybody calls it turtle glass. And I didn't know that. So, and then you look up what does turtle glass mean, and it's the 45 remittance of light. So it just seems that there are some beachfront residents that just take that as a given. Yes, if you replace a window, it needs to be this turtle glass. And I've heard you say it in previous meetings, and I wonder if you could repeat it again. When people are building new construction, I seem to recall that you had said that these new homeowners are very willing to do the 45%. Have you come across any pushback?
They usually come in with that understanding and making sure we're not going beyond that. And then that's when Jeff's like, well, please do it. We
You
don't
can't
have
really
that
enforce it,
position
right?
to go forward. They usually want to see, are we more stringent? Because Highland Beach is a smaller coastal community. And if you go to, was it Golden
Beach.
Golden
Miami
Beach,
Dade,
they're
yeah.
very rigorous with their requirements. So people kind of consider us as one of these smaller barrier island communities that are probably going to be more difficult to get a permit from, when actually we kind of fall to the contrary. So yes. Spoke to a builder this morning that said, oh yeah, turtle glass, everybody puts it in. Just turtle, it's no big deal. Turtle glass, it's what we do. And that's why they have that comment saying the turtle glass. But they believed it was a state requirement. So a lot of builders are still under that assumption. So
I guess my thought is the exterior lighting, existing or new. I like the way that it's worded in the ordinance, in my opinion. I mean, that seems like that's pretty well received. To me, the issue is the tinted glass on existing. So like new construction, I feel like brand new ground up construction, it seems like that there's not a lot of pushback there. It's more about the existing construction and the patchwork of if you have to do one window or another, or if one condo replaces and then the other condos. I think maybe that is where there's more friction. So I guess my recommendation, I don't know what everybody, sure. So state your name. Yeah. go ahead.
Barbara James at 3201. Majority of the windows there now, whether they're gonna be, are not zero. They're already something. They could be 39, and we're going 45. They're not 50. So just keep that in mind. I don't know anybody that has zero, but I don't know everybody. And they stay.
that's interesting
Yeah, that's a
because
good point.
because there's an energy efficiency calculation you do, and most of it is if you're, we are the sunrise coast, right? So that morning sun's hot.
Right.
So a lot of them already tint it because of the heat and the volume of that sunlight coming in. And to do the calculations that that builder had indicated, you had to keep you could do it, but you're gonna spend a lot of money trying to cool your structure. So a lot of people kind of already do. That's kind of a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Oh, another comment. I don't mind doing comment.
Beverly Knight, I'm a Sea Turtle monitor and have been for 23 years. I'm also a local broker here. And my husband and I used to build homes, we used to live here. I just have a couple of things that I can answer some questions that you had. You asked how this started. Back in the 90s, when we just had like a skeleton crew of older people doing this, Jean Ellis, who lived at 4205 South Ocean, she was such an advocate for the turtles. She tried to get everybody to turn their lights off. She got in a big battle with Mr. Sandelman at 3907, who actually sued her for making him turn his lights off. He would not turn his lights off, and he had those big ones that shined up the whole beach, like when you're having a party, because he said he was a single dad and his daughters were young. And they actually went to court in the late 90s, and Jean Ellis lost because the court said, well, where's the ordinance? And back then there wasn't any. So Jean helped write the original ordinance that you have, which was very, very short and did not include a lot of information. But what she did want in that ordinance is she said light that reaches the beach, which was a huge, area, whether it's inside, outside, low, high, light that reaches the beach. Could be your big screen television shining right through a main window. It reached the beach. And if any of you walk the beach at night, I don't think you realize how bright these lights are. I'm going to show you a picture, and this is new construction just taken last week on Highland Beach in our zone 2. And they've been very good at turning them off because sometimes construction workers leave them on. But look, just look at this picture. This is where the powerful words. Okay, look at this.
Yes.
This is what the turtles do. You see that?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
This is amazing. This is what people talk all day long about, like when they look at this picture. You see it? They turn them off. Yeah, we know, yes, we try to get to know everyone and we're on good terms with people, and sometimes they don't know the lights are on. But we do get those residents that don't want to turn them off. And that's what the ordinance is for, so that we have a little, bit of clout to say, you really need to turn these off. Because actually, in the end, after that lawsuit, Mr. Sandelman turned his light off. You know why? Because there were 100 dead sea turtles in front of his seawall one morning. And Jean Ellis left them there, knocked on his door and said, come here, I want to show you what your light did. All these little hatchlings were dead in front of his house. And then you turned it off. He has since moved. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I have an observation here on page 9. When we're looking at special events, motor vehicles, temporary lighting, subparagraphs K 1 and 2 refer to nighttime. I think we should have something more specific. Is it dusk? Is it 8 o'clock? Is it 7, 9? And also, I must say that given on that same page above at subsection 2, existing structures are encouraged. I think that goes a long way to perhaps making it more palatable and not as severe. That it's suggested, it's not mandatory. And I was also speculating, has the commission heard from the one commercial enterprise that we have, the hotel? I mean, and the restaurant, they have weddings outside, receptions, it's a popular time of the year for special events. Has any input Can you
Is-
see from
I
them?
have not heard from them in terms of any special events.
Or how
Yeah.
that will affect?
Yeah, how would that impact them?
Well, again, the ordinance is applicable to all properties in the town. It's very clear. So regardless if you're a residential, I mean, it's zoned as residential, but it's obviously not a residential use. It's not specific to residential, it's all properties, so they would have to comply with anything here that any provision in the ordinance.
And would that be major changes for them? I have not really seen what type of lighting.
I'm not sure of the current lighting. I don't know if the,
Okay.
But they do have outdoor seating, so they have two sections of outdoor seating, and then their bar is outside, and it's right there.
And they have all glass. The windows in the dining
Right.
room, and I don't recall, but they, in their catering section, the larger
Mhm.
section, whether it's a lot of windows. I mean,
That is a good point. Do we ever share stuff like this with the someone over there just to make sure we get their input?
We haven't on this, but we will be sure to do that. We'll go for
mean,
a little
that's a
ride
good
and a little
idea.
meeting.
Just to,
Yeah.
just so that they have a
Sure,
heads up.
absolutely.
I mean, not that, obviously residents and us have more of a say, but it'd probably be good to,
Great idea.
because I think I seem to recall they have tinted windows. I just don't know that they meet the 45% rule, and I'm not sure. And I've never been
It's
there.
not really that bright. I've stayed there a
Yeah.
lot, but it's not that bright at night.
Right.
from
So
there.
I
You'd be
don't-
surprised. You would think it would be, but it isn't, but it's definitely worth the outreach
Yeah,
for sure.
it'd be good to know whether or not they're already in compliance or not, because maybe they are. I really don't know. That's a good point.
or just to have their input to you.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
They may not know where
Right.
it's in consideration.
right. Yeah, that's a good one. I guess I'd like to hear the commission's thoughts on I feel like it's existing structures, the 45% light remittance, the tinted windows on existing structures. I mean, what is everyone's thoughts there? Do you think we need to change the ordinance? Or should we make it more optional for existing? So if you change one window out of 4 of your condo windows, do you need to comply with the 45%? Or should you only do it if the entire building replaces their windows? Any
I like
thoughts there?
Marshall's thing where if you have the one window, you put a shade or something up and just on that, the case, if you're doing a single. That would be my thought.
But in fact, if it's one window on a wall of windows, of separate windows, and even if the less expensive option was shades, reasonably, the owner is not going to just have one shade. They still have the expense of the whole wall or the whole room, however they happen to look at that time. So it's definitely going to be a significant event, a significant expense.
I mean, I'm inclined to make it optional. I don't know what other, for the new structures, make it clear, it's the 45, it's the C turtle glass, 45%. But for the existing, unless it's full replacement of the entire building, make that required 45%, but maybe any other.
I don't even know if I'd go to the whole building replacing, but if you are replacing all of them in a unit, then I would, because a lot of them, if you're facing directly west, it's not going to be seen on the beach. But certainly if the building is replacing all their windows, which there are buildings that are going to because they don't have hurricane impact windows, they might as well put this in. I don't think, I doubt that it costs anything extra, but if it does, it would be minimal because it's just tinted. But yeah, it's difficult with this when it's just one. So I don't, I think we have to be clearer in what's a triggering event.
I agree.
Yeah.
Again, I think the intent, again, from the feedback we got back from the commission in April, was that if it was just one window, that it would fall under the existing structures are encouraged to implement. You know, you wanted to not make that a shall, but, you know, do that. And again, with the new construction, and then it has here the improvements to existing structures. Maybe, as I said earlier, we want to elaborate on improvement. I believe there's a definition of improvement in the code. I'm not sure it's in the zoning code, but then maybe we could provide some to elaborate if it's like a full condo wide type improvement, then you have to comply with the 45. But I think the intent from the comments made from the commission, again, back in April, the one window being changed would default to this, suggested remedial.
Okay.
Right, so you could apply a window tint, rearrange lamps, put a shade. I think that was your intent from April. So again, I think we just need to provide a little bit of clarity on that improvements to a structure. I
To
think
have
that's
less-
where the problem is here. And again, that's the model ordinance, and when it comes down to the local level, the nuance comes into play, and then you have to amend accordingly.
If I may, I would add, it needs clarification. Let me give you an example. Common area, glass that goes up very high to the second level. Last hurricane, pebbles splattered a few of the windows. Obviously, those had to be replaced. Does that mean we have to consider that they all have to be replaced in the whole common area?
Well, I
Well-
think there could be many scenarios.
I understand
a
that, so.
long list of scenarios. I think staff will take a look. I get
Good.
what you're going with it. Yeah, there could be all kinds of events that could happen. I think we'll provide some more clarity on existing structures, improvements to them, and make it a little bit more clear. So to differentiate it between existing structures or interior lights.
I think it's the improvement part.
Right.
There, we need to spell out what the distinction is between replacement
Right.
and improvement.
Guys, I agree. We're looking for a less of an impact on existing
Right.
structures.
Right. Yeah. Do we need a motion or do you have,
I think we got our marching orders. It was good conversation, so I appreciate the direction.
so
And then,
share with Delray Sands, right?
yep, we're
And
gonna
then,
outreach, define a few of these things, not only just existing structures. We also had some defined nighttime came through there. There's a few other comments I have written down. But we'll work on that and try to, when we bring it back, maybe get a physical sample, maybe if it's just a window, put it outside, so when you come in, you can look at it. Look through the sun at it or something.
and will it be considered a first reading again?
Yep.
Yeah, so it'll be considered a first reading
I'd
again.
also like to know which buildings on the west side of the road, their lights can be seen on the beach.
Yeah.
Because there are some. I mean, if you're looking at some of the houses that have an apartment building across from it, their lights aren't gonna hit the beach. But there are some buildings that will. If they have an open area between them and the beach.
Yeah.
Some of those, the lights from some of those buildings might very well hit them, and also you have to be careful with how you enter buildings and what kind of garages they have, because you can't tell people not to use their headlights.
Right, the way the
Yeah.
ordinance is proposed,
Mhm.
again, it would apply to, have it here. It applies to any type of lighting on the beach, so on the west side too, but I'll defer to town
That's it.
manager.
It said anything that you can see.
Right, from the
the beach.
beach, directly, indirectly. I'll defer to town manager about doing an assessment of west side properties.
I mean, I think these properties should know that they're going to be affected by this statute. And it's not terrible, it's a good way to be affected, but you have to know if you're replacing some outdoor lights on the front of the building, that you want to make sure you're putting in the right kind of lights.
Okay,
I
gotcha.
I have a comment also on the construction after dusk. I think there was some reference to vehicles, but I didn't know if that covered it, because we don't know whether the Triple R project, what time of day it's going to be. There was some discussion of having it in the evening hours to close off at maybe 9 or 10 o'clock, but it's nighttime. So I think some thought, and then I have a question as far as the enforcement penalty on page 16. It references the code. But without going to that ordinance, can you give us Marshall, an idea of what the penalties would be for violations?
Every morning during turtle season, they have to go out and check the nests. No, it would go under our civil structure, civil penalty structure. So you go to the code board if you do violate it and go that way. New construction won't be an issue because it's a building permit check. So it'll be the in-between stuff. Usually we find that if somebody, as Ms. Knight had just described, that if we tell them, most people will turn it off. Most people want to do the right thing. They'll address it. But if it does, it elevates based on first violation, second in our civil infraction process in there. And the code enforcement board can establish certain penalties for non-compliance and things.
Okay.
But I'll give you more definition on that next time around, give you details to what that would be.
Dimmer switches help.
I don't think dimmer switches are referenced in the ordinance in the state model. I don't know, maybe Joanne can speak to that. A bit more. Oh, you want to come up to the.
It all really boils down to what's shining on the beach. You can dim your lights to the point that it shines to here, but you might have a nest right there on the beach. So, I don't know. And I just want to add one other thing. I think that a little of this is being a little overly complicated with the interior lighting, because I have to tell you, the white lights on the exterior of the buildings is a big problem. The west side of the A1A, there's not a whole lot of stuff that shines onto the beach, except for the really tall apartment buildings, like Toscana is the first one that comes to mind. There's a few street lights that where there's empty lots, you can see them. And that can all be fixed with the amber lighting. Amber lighting is in force in Delray and Boca. It's all around us and people drive by it. I'm sure you guys drive by it every night when you're out, and you can see that it's not a hazard. You can see, you can walk, you can find your way. You're not going to trip and fall. And that's really what I have to say about that.
I just searched the model ordinance for the state. There's no remedial measure of dimming, like a dimmer. I mean, just turn off the lights, of course, but not per se the dimming of lights. But
What is the status of our current lights on A1A? Are they appropriate? Do they fit within
when you
the
say
parameters?
when you say
Well,
our,
A1A in our town,
I mean the
traffic, yes, our street,
the homes or
no,
on the
our
street?
street lights.
I think Marshall had made reference to that in the
I think
April
most of
meeting
our
that-
street lights are shielded because they face westward. So they're facing this way out towards the road versus back over. Like in Boca, you see it because they're on the west side of the road and they cut down all the vegetation. So you could see it straight to the beach. Here, most of ours are unfortunately tangled up in some tree branches too, but most of them are shining westward
Westward,
versus
exactly.
eastward.
I actually talked to the public works director about that. And that's what he had told me too. They're facing westward.
Thank you.
So they're shielded. So that's good. So, all right.
For the repositions.
Well, the kind of the funny
reposition-
thing on that, right, is, for so long, they had those mercury halide lights, which are the perfect color for turtles. It's like for turtle lighting. And then we all went to the LEDs and turned it to this white light, which are actually bad. So now we're going back to LEDs with the sodium halide colored light. It's kind of funny. It kind of bounces around like that.
Sometimes things have unexpected
Yeah,
consequences.
that's right.
Right.
That's right. Well, thank you very much. I think that. does that
Yep, we'll-
conclude that?
We got great direction. I appreciate it. And we'll come back and
Come back for
also
a
get back
first
to
reading.
sample too. Yep.
Okay, great. Okay, next item, new business, ratification of the collective bargaining agreement between the town of Highland Beach and Palm Beach County Police Benevolent Association related to the law enforcement agreement effective October 1st, 2023 through September 30th, 2026.
As we've discussed, we've all had our one-on-one meetings. Everything we work towards in cooperation with our officers. So thank you with the PBA team. And with Laura Donlin, our labor attorney, helping us out. But basically, Our mission, and again, you heard it not only from me, but a lot from Chief Hartman, is a marketplace adjustment on the pay scale. So that's basically what we did. We had to be able to compete with the other similarly situated municipalities that are going to retain and recruit the same type of officers. That's Tequesta, North Palm, Lighthouse Point, Hillsborough Beach. Those are the places where Manalapan, Gulfstream, Ocean Ridge, all of these communities, we found ourselves as a bottom tier paid agency, and that created some problems. So we made that adjustment upward. Now, again, we're never going to be able to, I don't want to say ever, but we can't compete with the BOCA and the Sheriff's Association. They just outpay us. But we should, for coastal barrier island communities, be on par with those other adjacent agencies. So we did that on this one. We made a big lift, moved us forward. We didn't encumber ourselves with unfunded liabilities. And so I think we were able to strike a nice balance on a 3-year contract to get the pay where it should be for the quality of our officers. So thank you again. And move us forward as a comparable and leading agency on the coast. And I know that's what Hartman, Chief Hartman really wants, is to make sure that we don't get hit with a lot of these other smaller agency issues with recruitment and retention. It's really becoming a growing issue. You'll probably read a lot about it if you read these exciting journals that I do all day, but it is becoming a growing problem. And I think we've done a good job to get out in front, partner with our officers and make it right. And we got this. Again, it fits within our 5-year forecast. We anticipated this. This is a neutral impact on our millage rate, and it gets us there. And I appreciate the support. I appreciate the support of the officers. I think we really came together, struck a deal that got us in the marketplace, moved us up the scale. So we're a leading agency in these smaller coastals. But again, in a few years, we'll probably have the same conversation again as everybody else moves up. And I know that Manalapan just did it too. They raised up. So what we thought, so it puts us in the right spot as we want to continue our safest city in Florida designation.
Does anyone want to start with comments? You want to go ahead, Vice
Yeah.
Mayor?
I went through it with some detail, and I can say that I think it's a very fair and good agreement.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and go next. I absolutely agree. Yeah, we have to, we want to be able to retain our good officers. I think it pays off in the end when you pay appropriately. So I think you get the value out of it long term. I really like the lack of, avoiding any quirky, unfunded, committing to things that could balloon in the future. This is just, it's a straightforward increase in pay to make us comparable without any, I would characterize, strange other type of compensation items. So I really like how straightforward it is. So yes, I'm in favor of the contract the way that it is. I appreciate the one-on-one. I think we spent an hour and a half or so going through it, explaining the key provisions. I am in agreement that we want, we're comparing ourselves as far as pay scale goes to other like municipalities. And I think that is the right type of comparison. So yes, I am in favor with the agreement as it is. Anybody else?
I'd like to hear Don's take on it.
I've been on both sides of the fence on this, and it was funny when I was mayor up in New York, I had a deal with the police department. I was a member, and actually my son was the president and my son-in-law was the vice president. So it's a similar situation like this because it's a win-win situation for the town and for the police department. If you don't get everybody up there, like Marshall said, you don't have to be the BOCA, but you have to be up there, or you're going to get officers leave or at the jobs, and you want to maintain this. And I think this is like I said, it's a win-win. It's helping the town and helping the officers, and I totally agree with this, and thank you, Marshall. You spent an hour and a half on each one of us separately. And you did a great job explaining everything. Thank you.
Since Donna is the one with boots on the ground experience, I
Yes.
will follow suit.
I agree as well. I think it's excellent in looking forward to continue the quality of services that we have. The police are crucial. Certainly, I was impressed with the issues surrounding recruitment, particularly here. With what we need and the background and the character of what we want to retain. And you needed to bump up considerably the salary scale. I think having the step plan is very, very important. All aspects of it. And again, I thank Marshall. It was very informative. And excellent. Certainly that it has a neutral impact on us fiscally is exceptional. So we are accomplishing everything with very heightened standards, and we can afford it. We have the money there. It's not going to affect our millage. So I'm totally in support of this.
Okay, so do we have a motion?
I move that we accept and ratify the collective bargaining agreement between the town and Palm Beach County Police Benevolent Association.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, I believe we need a roll call for this.
Commissioner David,
Yes,
Vice Mayor Stern,
Yes,
Commissioner Goldberg,
Yes,
Commissioner Peters,
Yes,
and Mayor Moore.
Yes,
Motion carries 5-0.
okay. Moving on, new business item B, consideration of memorandum of understanding between the town of Highland Beach and the Palm Beach County Police Benevolent Association.
Yeah, so this is the moving the pay provisions of October 1 forward to the first pay period in June. So instead of the first year of the contract in effect being, it is a 12-month, so I see my labor attorney staring at me. It's only 12 months. But this memorandum of understanding basically creates 12 to 18 months or 15 months, gives extra 3 months of the new pay to the officers in place, and makes the necessary adjustments for the sergeants as they were they were in between steps. So we did all those adjustments and bringing that pay forward, starting a little bit early, a few months earlier. And again, it fits within the budget. David's comfortable that we have the dollars there to accommodate this slight increase of the current fiscal year.
Anybody have any comments?
and there was also, so the current staff, were they bumped up into another category, another?
Yeah, so a few of them were in what I call them tweener steps. You weren't really in the right, there wasn't a step 2 or 3. They're kind of in the middle. So you can't, when you do these type of adjustments, you can't have one taking a large step and then somebody sitting with them on shift only gets a small increase because of where their current pay is. To make that marketplace adjustment kind of complicates it a little bit. This allows us to make those shifts and adjustments, get everybody in the right bucket or the right step, however you want to see it, and then move forward. So again, state law only allows us to do 3-year contracts, and we didn't want to move outside of the fiscal year and move it up to a June 1 contract. So we just did this MOU to kind of bridge that 3-month gap until October 1. So the October 1 starts in June through the memorandum of understanding, but it's still a 3-year contract that's in effect from October 1 of 23 to September 30th of 26.
And is there also a bonus?
Nope.
Put in there?
Nope.
Okay. I'm in favor. It makes perfect sense. So if we could have a motion, please.
okay. I move that we accept the memorandum of understanding between the town of Highland Beach and the Palm Beach County Police Benevolent Association.
second,
Okay. Commissioner David,
Yes,
Vice Mayor Stern,
yes,
Commissioner Goldberg,
Yes,
Commissioner Peters,
yes.
and Mayor Moore.
Yes,
Motion carries 5-0.
Chief.
Mayor, Commissioners, Chief Craig Hartman. Just want to say thank you for approving this contract. It's really important for what we're trying to do and build the agency that we envision us to be. So what you do here, that approval, that support and appreciation speaks volumes to our officers in our community about what the town feels about their police department. So thank you to that. The town manager to get the stuff done, the staff he has here, second to none. He gets it. He makes things happen. You heard the finance director last week, the analytics we get from that. So the fiscal responsibility is second to none here. And we know we can do these things and these guys make stuff happen. So I can't say how grateful we are to them for moving us through these processes, and certainly to our officers come to the table, left some things on the table, but understood the importance of what we're trying to get done and getting to yes. And we did this in such an agreeable fashion. It's really have to commend them and thank them for the job that they do every day. So thank you for your support and approval of this. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you to everyone working together. I really felt like it was truly a meeting of the minds and working together. And we're just so grateful to our police force. And I think it's an important component of making this the 3 miles of paradise that we are. It definitely is highly valued by all of us and, making this such a safe community, a paradise. So thank you to the police. Really appreciate it. Okay, next. Okay, next item, discussion on the update to the 2013 beach restoration feasibility study.
So as Ingrid comes up, I'm excited about this. We've been talking about this for a while and we finally got it to you. This will take our 2013 beach erosion study, go out there, double check our shoreline to make sure, is it maintaining consistency with the previous study? How is the erosion occurring on the coast? And then we added a little twist in here, thanks to the commission and the Natural Resource Advisory Board, to look at the dune complex. Not only is it important to the turtles, but it's also protection to storm surge and private property values. So this study, they're going to take a look at the dune complex and determine where the points of vulnerability are, so we can begin to educate directly with property owners if they are identified as having a critical dune erosion issue or area, so we can help, bring them up to speed and help them restore native plantings, other types of improvements that they can make. So this allows us to take that step. Again, this is a strategic priority, very critical. We've been talking about it for a while. I'm glad we got it to the table. That allows us to take that next step. So then we could come back and say, oh, these are the handful of areas that we need to really focus, and then put our resources and time into those areas and help folks out, whether it's a condo association or private property owner, help them make that change, what they need to do. And then maybe we look at, based on that findings, I know I've got Skender's not here, but I have him working on the grant stuff to learn how to find grants. So maybe we could do that and do some public-private partnership type grants and, I don't want to get Peggy on the line all the time, but maybe we could find some state dollars out there. So, Representative Gossett-Simon could be a good resource too, once we have some details.
Okay, just for those that may be watching on TV or that are here, didn't have a chance to read the memorandum. Just wanted to let you know that back in November 1st of 2022, as I mentioned in the memorandum, you had the chair of the Natural Resources Board come before the commission to give an update on their educational outreach efforts in terms of dune restoration and management. As Marshall mentioned, this is a strategic priorities plan, and the commission back in 2021 gave the direction to the board to do the educational outreach, to go ahead and execute that. They don't have to come back to the commission to get any additional approval. So Chair Stansfield again provided that update, and that led to a conversation or a discussion amongst the commission about, looking at the dunes and updating that report, that beach or feasibility study that was done in 2013. So the town manager obviously mentioned the 2013 report to those that maybe weren't familiar with it. And then I got the direction from Marshall to reach out to the firm. In the staff memo, I talk about some name changes. There were some, changes to the firm, but that said, they did provide the proposal. And actually, we do have on Zoom Mr. Doug Manning, who is the lead coastal engineer for Aptum. He's available in case you had any questions specific to the proposal.
I do have a question, so I don't know if you want me to go first or if anyone else. Yeah, so I guess one reason I was really in favor of this was I wanted to identify very specific actions by property to work with the condo or homeowner so that they had very specific action on, you know, what they should do. So I don't know if I didn't read it correctly, but is that in the deliverable of this agreement? So like, is it in there?
It's on
Sorry if I
page
missed it.
44
Two
under
44.
B,
So it
beach
does-
dune.
Okay, so go, yeah, could you go ahead and where does it say
It
that?
says, again, on page 244, under letter B, it says beach and dune condition observation. It says Aptum coastal engineers will observe the conditions of the beach and dune for each property within the town. Specific reference will be made to the presence of near shore rock in the beach profile and its effects on beach and dune stability. The presence or absence of dune scarps and condition of dune vegetation will be noted. That's what's in there now.
So when so when it says, for each property, how is each property defined? Is it truly like each individual lot?
And maybe we
So,
want to put that
I
in the
think so.
agreement.
For me, that was,
I
that was a
think that's a great
critical
comment
reason.
that it would
'cause
be
I would
by
want it to be
parcel.
like a rate, you know, 3,200 block. I don't know. I don't know what they could do.
Yeah.
Okay, when I read the report, I felt like there was just a lot of, I guess because I'm ignorant in this, just a lot of vagueness. The north end of the town, the south end of the town. I mean, specific property, I don't know,
Yeah, I would suggest making that
4505,
comment, absolutely.
4505 needs, I don't know, how much sand, how many plants, something just very specific. I wouldn't, I think when we had talked about this before, people were saying, well, homeowner can go to the website and kind of, get themselves, like, it needs to be a very specific direction. And I think that's the key to making this successful. So yeah, if we could, hopefully that is what they intended. But if we could clarify that it's by specific address or lot, or I don't know, what's the best way to add that verbiage? So there's very specific action items for each homeowner or condo association to take in order to improve the dune. And then it sounded like there will be a comparison to the prior study, correct? It as part of this, they
Yeah.
will show changes in the beach. Okay, so I thought that was
And an
really
important component, if you noted it, since that beach feasibility study was completed, we now have a climate change vulnerability, a CCVA vulnerability assessment that was completed as part of the Coastal Resiliency Partnership, which the town is part of with other coastal cities and the county as well. So when I spoke to Mr. Mann, I mean, he was aware of it, but I thought it was very important that he take all that. It's over 200-page final report, but there's a lot of very important information. It doesn't delve too much into dunes, but it talks about, dune stability as a mitigation effort, right? In terms of climate change and all the various variables that are in that report. So I thought that was an important thing to consider for this proposal. And it's in there. We put it in there as well.
If I read this correctly, they're going to not only compare the study with what was done, they're going to look at the dunes, they're going to look at it in relation to what's there and what can be done. And they're going to give us suggestions where they see that a lot of erosion has taken place. They'll give you ideas as to how to minimize it. There's nothing that you can do that's going to stop it. But the answer is make it as palatable as possible so that you limit how much erosion. And you don't want the dunes to go anyway. All those buildings will have a real problem if the dunes are not maintained, if the seawalls are not maintained. And I like the idea that they will give specific suggestions and alternative suggestions as to what you can do in each area. Because then we can fine tune it to individual properties.
I think that's the goal.
Mhm.
I would like to know, will this be addressing, the, dredging?
I don't believe
Of,
that's included.
that may be going on, any adverse effects from our neighbors?
It's not in the scope of work.
But doesn't the erosion kind of speak to that? Like how much erosion we have? Isn't that a?
Again, the mayor and I were at and heard from the county. When they approve or authorize the dredging, it does not result in a negative impact to the beach or shore. The sand's gone and there's a big hole, but it doesn't affect the shoreline erosion or the transports, sediment transport that was stated. Now, this isn't in the scope of this report, but it's something that I know is becoming an issue. And that, I can't remember the gentleman's name from the environmental protection group at the county.
Yes.
But he had mentioned and it's running out of sand. We keep on renourishing, we're running out when we excavate because those holes aren't refilling themselves. Once they're left, it's just a hole. So, but again, they do those with the Army Corps and the state agencies. They don't have an impact on the beach. That statement was made to us. So it doesn't tie directly to this. It would be a different study because you're gonna have to be out in the water and it's a regional state issue too that they're gonna have to look at. And I think they will be. I think it's growing. I think that. issue is-
I
yeah.
think so too.
Yeah.
All right, so this will not touch on that. It seemed, it seemed, and I thought it should, because it does affect us. It affects our shoreline, it affects our ability to, I don't know enough about it scientifically, but as long as we take it up in another topic that we discuss, and I would request that we inquire.
Yeah, I think I'll reach out to the county, maybe a presentation from them on the permitting and what's going on in the county and do that on a regular basis for us, I think would be quite valuable. Because I just did the Boca Inlet and South Inlet Beach and Deerfield. So I think it would be nice to know what's involved, the scope of detail, what's next, what's planned. I think would be good to know.
Okay. And I just want to point out that if on page 283 of the earlier feasibility study, 5.3 speaks of beach nourishment projects. Thank you.
Yes. So longshore drift. So when Delray does it,
Mhm.
that's good
Well,
because
it's
we
not
get the
that-
sand
Right.
because
That's right.
a certain percentage washes down shore and
Yeah.
stacks up on our beaches. So it's good when they do it. Boca, not as much of an impact for us. But there is a relationship to it that accretion or sand accretion, some of that is attributable to that longshore drift. I see the engineer, I don't know if he's going to shake his head at me if I'm saying it correctly, but as that moves down shore from Delray, it does stack up on our beaches and it adds sand. So they do account for looking at that in the study, like other projects over the years, what it has meant to us and stuff.
And our beaches are much narrower to the south, on the
Yep.
south end.
Yep.
Closer to Boca.
Yep.
Thank you.
I think this is a great study. 244, like you mentioned, has everything there, the hot spots, the erosion, and it's going to give us the cures maybe. And I like that what you said per lot, like per condo, so we can actually go out there and do it. My other question is this is the same company that did that in 2013?
Right, they went through some changes in name. I believe I used the wording of, and maybe Mr. Mann could speak to it. It looks like they were a legacy company of the Shaw Group Company. So there was buyouts and what have you. But he indicated, and I mentioned in the staff report, they had the original files
Right.
for the project.
That's good. So they
Yeah,
can
he could
compare.
elaborate a little bit
Right.
more on that if you like,
Right.
but.
Thank you.
And then I'd like to know if the cost of the project
Says-
will be increased. I see it on page 247. But with the request for more specificity, to what extent, if any, the cost is increased.
There's no need to increase the cost for what you're asking for.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
There's no need to increase the cost that we provided in the proposal based on the additional comments you've given here today.
Thank
Okay,
you.
great. Any other comments you wish to add, Mr. Mann?
No, I'm good.
I think this is a great idea, and I think it is well worth the money.
I would agree with all the comments and observing and looking at the different breakdowns, going to the specific properties is very important. It's interesting that the deterioration of the beach on the south end compared to the old studies really has been virtually non-existent. Bigger problems more to the north. So going and looking at each property would be extremely valuable.
Great. Do we have a motion?
I move that we approve the beach study proposal from Aptiv Beach Feasibility
Madam Mayor,
With the addition to the specificity.
with the addition regarding specificity.
could I also ask you to please add that we include our standard addendum? It's things like the Palm Beach County Inspector General language, things like the public records law to their contracts. So it includes that. And I don't think we want arbitration in Baton Rouge, Louisiana either. I think we need to change that too. But basically our standard addendum would cover those items.
I second that. Yeah.
I saw that, yeah, thank you.
Do you need a roll call or?
Commissioner David,
Yes,
Commissioner Peters,
Yes.
Commissioner Goldberg,
Yes,
Vice Mayor Stern,
Yes,
and Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, great. Okay, item D, Sea Turtle presentation by Joanne Ryan.
Okay, now we get to lighten it up a little bit. Thank you, Mayor Moore, for inviting me back today on this International World Turtle Day. It's not World Sea Turtle Day, but it is World Turtle Day. So the theme this year is I love turtles, and I pulled my shirt out just for this. Last summer, I did this presentation when the former Mayor Hellman was here, and he was so gracious and so nice, and he really offered to help us out a whole lot. So I'm back this year. I'm gonna give you the same presentation that we did last year, just to give an overall of what we do out on the beach. We are permitted under Florida Fish and Wildlife, and I have 20 people on the permit, all volunteers. They're out there every morning, 7 mornings a week from March 1st to October 31st. And I have a handful of my people right here, all very dedicated. So there have been some new progress been made over the past 8 months or so, but I would like if we could just do the video presentation, kind of sit back. It's only 6 minutes. It's very visual intensive, and it's gonna tell you pretty much what we do out there.
Every morning from March 1st to October 31st, a dedicated group of men and women get up in the dark of pre-dawn and head for Highland Beach to monitor the sea turtle activity. The volunteers are trained by FWC to go out and look for turtle tracks, identify the species of the turtle, and determine whether a nest has been made. The nest is marked and the data recorded. Then that nest is monitored for the next 45 to 55 days until it hatches. 3 days after a nest hatches, it gets inventoried. All data collected is for Florida Fish and Wildlife's database and will be reported to them. Not only do we document the nesting activity, but we also look and document any high tide washover, sand accretion, and any predation to the nest. These are all factors in the success of the nest, and we try to give FWC meaningful information so that they can determine the fate of the species. We also are required to report any obstructions to nesting, such as furniture or man-made objects, and any lighting issues that can cause disorientation of hatchlings and the nesting moms. The very first permit holder for the town of Highland Beach was permitted by FWC in 1985 to Jose Echeverria. He started a small group of volunteers to monitor the beach each morning during nesting season that runs March 1st to October 31st. He held that position for 20 years. The next permit holder was Barbara James, who became a volunteer when she moved into Highland Beach, growing it into a group of 20 to 25 people, keeping them all on schedule and with all the supplies needed, much of it out of her own pocket. In addition to collecting the data for FWC, we get to witness the beauty of Mother Nature that brings something a little different each day. The sunrises, the storms, the disappointing amount of trash blowing in. There are sometimes things that need to be reported, like turtle strandings or objects in the ocean that wash ashore that may be a research item, and even contraband. We witness live hatches and turtle moms that are still completing their nesting in the early morning hours. We see the struggles the turtles sometimes have just wanting to come up, encountering man-made objects. Some of us have had to help them get untangled or unstuck from furniture or steps. Many of us pick up trash and clean the beach on our walk. We walk the 3 miles of Highland Beach in every kind of weather except for hurricanes or serious lightning storms. We get wet and we sweat a lot. The beginning and the end of season, we may encounter the refreshing cold fronts and lots of wind. People will ask to join us, and we willingly take them along. Children especially, so we can educate about the importance of protecting a species from extinction, and to show the importance of everyday choices. Then they will willingly take a bucket to pick up trash, some of it coming from as far away places as Portugal, West Africa, and Morocco. Being a turtle monitor is not a glamorous job, although some seem to think it is. Many people will say they want to help or join the program, but many do not last because it is a lot of work. It's a dedication, a commitment to getting out of bed when it's still dark, getting on the beach, observing and documenting everything you see. The ones that do stick with the program usually last for many years. These are the ones that know we are doing something very special, something we can all be proud of, protecting a species and educating anyone that has questions or are curious about what we do on the beach. Highland Beach is a very turtle-friendly town. In fact, we get more nests here than the surrounding communities. We get great support from the town officials and the police officers, some even showing off their turtle tattoos. According to the website, Highland Beach had a population of 4,295 people in 2020. In 2021, Highland Beach had a total of 2,144 turtle crawls. That is almost half the population of Highland Beach. Pretty impressive. Most of our volunteers have full-time jobs and run home to shower the sand off to get into the office. Some have been active in the program for over 20 years and was with Jose back in the late 80s. We are all very proud to say we are sea turtle monitors, and is one of the reasons that I took on the commitment to become the newest permit holder. It's a position that does hold its own challenges, with 20 to 25 people and 5 zones to cover, and the reporting to FWC. I decided to take on the responsibility of being the permit holder for Highland Beach in 2021. I'm still getting used to it, but I've been volunteering since 2010. My hope going forward is to make this group into a nonprofit, create some fundraising to keep us in supplies, clean t-shirts, and hopefully going forward, maybe an ATV to streamline the process of conducting the morning nesting surveys. In the words of Winston Churchill, we make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. And in our case, it is also saving the lives of the species we cannot afford to lose.
Okay, so with all that being said, I am very happy to announce that we're not just the Highland Beach Sea Turtle Volunteers anymore. We are the Highland Beach Sea Turtle Team Incorporated. We set up our 501c3. We are ready to receive donations and keep us going and expand the program and make it stronger than ever. Sorry, I get a little emotional about this because I'm very passionate about it. All these people here are very passionate. We work very hard. And I would love to maybe going forward, when you do your food truck events, put some outreach tables out there. And I'm hoping to collect on Mayor Hillman's promise last July.
Yeah, so 2 out of the 5 of us were here when that offer was made. And so now that this is incorporated, congratulations. I think that's great.
Thank you.
We requested to put this on the agenda so that we could have official approval by the new commission. And I just want to say thank you to you all for doing this. Yeah, every day for so many years. Oh my goodness, that is really tremendous. Thank you very much for doing that. On behalf of all of us, thank you very much for doing that. So I guess the thing to consider is the $2,500 donation to the Highland Beach Sea Turtle Team. So any comments from commissioners?
I have comments. I want to thank you and all of the people that have been volunteering and working with you. It's just remarkable what you do. Remarkable.
Thank you. We love it. Actually, it's a very passionate thing that we do. We know we're doing something special. Not everyone gets to do it. It's a lot of work and it's hot right now, especially. But yeah, and anyone that ever wants to join any of us out there on a turtle walk, or if we're going to inventory a nest, please come out, because it's something that you'll take home with you. You'll tell your kids about it, your grandkids. And we just hope to keep it going.
Well, everyone residing in Highland Beach, thank you, I'm sure, and appreciate what you're doing. I'm totally in support of the contribution, and congratulations for your formation. You're stepping up there, and thank you again.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for everybody for going out before your coffee. I don't know if you bring your coffee or that early in the morning. I don't know, but thank you. I'm supportive of this, and I would love to come out one morning and have my coffee with me though, and do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, but I have not changed my mind. I thought it was a good idea then. I think it's a wonderful idea now.
Thank you.
I am also in total support. The only question I would have is, what is the history as far as donations to, I know we have other foundations like library, police, et cetera. What could you just clarify that for us?
We have, from a general fund perspective, not contributed to those, but it is lawful to make this contribution. The public benefit would be the protection of our sea turtle nesting habitats and supporting those folks that report that back to the FWC. So it does support a public purpose It's focused in Highland Beach because it's to the Highland Beach permit holder. So it's very lawful and we could make this happen. Again, we have dollars in the budget.
Thank you. I would support that.
Yeah, I'm also in support. So I had family over, a 7-year-old and a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old who I have teenagers now, so I'm not used to getting up as early as they get up. So they got me up really early and we went to the beach and one of your volunteers was helping the hatch. So we got lucky and we were able to observe, the kids were able to, and me, were able to observe the hatchlings and the volunteer helping. And it was very memorable. The kids still remember, this from last year. So yes, I highly recommend if anyone else can do that, that is really a great experience. And so, yeah, I was really grateful to be able to, walk with the volunteer. And so.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Going forward, I know a lot of the other organizations around the state, they take people out on turtle walks, they get donations. And so going forward, we'd love to take families, we'd love to take young kids. When we're doing inventories, we can maybe start incorporating something into your newsletter. But like I said, we would love to do an outreach table if you ever, have any food truck events like you've done in the past. I know there's a lot of construction here now, but, going forward, it's something to think about.
Great. So is there a motion?
I move that we contribute $2,500 to the Highland Beach Sea Turtle Team Incorporated.
I second it.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone, aye. Anyone opposed, say no. Motion carries unanimously 5-0. Thank
Thank
very
you.
much.
Our very first donation, guys. First one. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, hurricane season presentation by Chief of Police Craig Hartman.
Mayor Commissioners, thank you. And since they're still here, I really want to congratulate them. Since I've been here, they're probably responsible for the most seizure narcotics that we take in through kilos and bales and everything else that they call us on. So thank you for that contribution.
Wow.
It's true.
Wow.
I'm here today to talk about dreaded hurricane season. I know it sounds early, but June 1st is around the corner. Everybody knows June 1st to November 30th is hurricane season. But we start early talking about it. The State Hurricane Conference was this year in West Palm Beach. We were just there last week talking with them and their message about being prepared, what the state does behind the scenes. This is not early for them. This may be early for everybody else because we see these things so late in the year, but we here start talking about it, the state starts talking about it and their message to get that out. So just want to give you a brief snapshot on how we get through our hurricane seasons here and what we do for our residents and how we educate them and get through them also. NOAA comes out with their prediction. It won't be out till May 25th, tomorrow or next day for us, for the state. Really doesn't matter. I mean, they're pretty much the same every year, whether it's a below average, above average. We know it only takes one bad storm to make a bad hurricane season in your community. The other, oh, there. So let's get through just a couple of slides. Get to work. Yeah. Did you do that or did I do that? Okay, that's fine. Thank you. This is what we tell everybody. This is our message from the town. Have a plan, be prepared. So we ask you to do very early on and start talking about it now. We know historically, people don't worry about something till they have to worry about something. We'll tell you that's too late to start thinking about it, talking about it, and have some of those plans made. Am I doing that or somebody?
There you go.
Okay. See, See our hurricane scale, everybody knows that. Minimal of 74 miles an hour starts our hurricane season. Some of the ones we've dealt with over the last decade, you see how close all of these have come, category 4s, 5s. So what Irma did to us in 2017, some of the worst damage that we saw here. For those of you here that remember that, that was a little bit of a mess. Nicole, how close that came to us. And then we know what Ian did. And what we talk about, and what the hurricane conference focused on too, very importantly, is don't get hung up on what prior storms did. Don't get hung up on tracks. Every one of these are different. They're dynamic. I'll show you something later on, but you have to be prepared. That's how we look at these things as a town, as a municipality, as a barrier island. When these things are coming our way, we look at the track, but we don't get hung up on the track. We think that that's coming right at us. We start talking and preparing that way. I tell you, the county does it that way also. Our reports start early on, our situational rep reports that start coming out through the county. Everybody's on board, start looking at how to address this and how it comes our way, whether or not it's going to move or fluctuate. But we have to be prepared to say, we're going to take a direct hit on the storm. We all saw Dorian stir up to a large category 5 right off our coast and make that right-hand turn at the last minute, fortunately for us. We know we're in a barrier island, right? Evacuation zones, everything for a barrier island, category 2 or higher. Mandatory. That's all evacuations. That's all of Palm Beach County, all of there in the yellow. These are all determined by the state. This is not something we make these decisions on. But when we get the evacuation orders, we ask that you evacuate. So the best thing you can do is make these plans, talk to people that you have relationships with right on the other side of the bridge. Right? You don't have to get in the car and go to Idaho. It's these people that have the people that do leave here. We know our residents are here all year and get over the bridge someplace where they're safe from flooding, being stranded in these type of environments. They're able to get back when this is not a major event and we don't have issues. They're able to come right back, but they have some place to go to then when they have to. And that's what we ask you to do, is make those plans, have those conversations now with friends, with relatives, with people in your social networks, that if in emergency, can you have a refuge, a shelter if you have to during a hurricane? We'll go back one more. So just real quick on the bridges. Number one question we get, when are the bridges going to be closed? We don't close bridges. This is our avenue. It's a Linton Bridge avenue of egress to get on and off the barrier island. If they're asking you to evacuate, they're not going to put the bridges up. If you have a boat, you're stuck with your boat. You can't take it. If you can't get under it, you have to dock it and keep it there. But that bridge will stay like that and let you get over for as long as you need to. So when you're talking to people, don't worry about the bridges being closed. They'll get you off the island. Everything's done through Palm Beach County Emergency Operations Center. If you haven't been up there, it's an impressive facility. And they set up there in a 24/7 operation, and everything that we get that controls the county, that comes down from the Florida Department of Emergency Management down to the county level. This is where it's controlled out of. This is the information that we get with them. And we can tell you as these things evolve and get closer to us, we get on the town staff, the manager, and soon to be fire chief with us, but we get on conference calls with them on a daily basis. So the information is sharing back and forth. We're on a portal with them. There's things that we need, questions that we have. They man this, they staff this. They have a tremendous group up there that does a great job of this year after year. Very well versed on all this. Mary Blakeney, who you know and you dealt with, they run a good show up there. So how do we get information out when things are happening to our community? We started Code Red several years ago. It's been the most effective way to communicate with our residents. It's, you sign up for it, you can get it through emails, voicemails, text, however you set it up for, however many phones. It's critical. We push this information all year as we talk to people. It's on our website. We'll be making more pushes as we talk now. But this has been the number one effective way for us. We put information out in a variety of ways with our website, our cable channel, social media, all those things. But as those things fail and get worse during emergencies, this seems to be the best, and it's wherever you are, you will get it. We know, we talk to people up north during the hurricane, they were getting our messages about what's happening here in town. We use it internally. We have a system set up for our employees, and we're able to blast that information to them about closures, about situations, and it works. It works just as effectively for us. So some of the way we put some of the information out, so people can get information when they have to. But what I do want to share with you is that it's critical that you stay attuned as a resident, responsible resident for us, is that your local media does a great job of getting you information now. They are so up to date with what's happening, and you have those weather apps on any of the stations that you watch. Because remember, we'll put the information out, but everything we put out relates to Highland Beach, right? We're going to tell you what's happening here, what we're doing, what closures we have. But those kind of staying tuned to your local media has been a big way to stay on top of what's happening also. But we'll keep you informed. Evacuations, orders, those type of things are given. You know, these are shelters. Those are absolute last resorts. I've worked shelters when we've done this before. You don't want to go to a shelter if you don't have to. So make those arrangements. We encourage you to do that now. We encourage our residents to make those arrangements when they can. Checklists, all know it. These are important. Ask any of your residents here that ended up with power outages during Irma down in the south end. You could physically see the difference on the people that had power and the people that didn't after several days. It was that taxing on them, and some of the things that they essentially needed also, and not easy to get in those first 24 to 48 hours. We witnessed that also. All the information's out there. Anybody that wants something, they can find that. You know where to go. We push this information out all year. We talk to our associations about it. Town websites, any of the town police department staff can help you talk about any of that stuff. Yeah. So just want to touch on this. We were up a couple weeks ago, Major O and the fire chief and I went up to Daytona Beach Shores. So Daytona Beach Shores got hit with storm surge during Nicole. They didn't get impacted by Nicole, but they got hit with a storm surge. Very similar to us, 5 miles, about 5,000 full-time residents, about 10,000 during the season. A little bit of commercial there on the beach. But this is a beach that you could drive on up there. And we went up there and spent several hours one day with the fire chief and with the police chief and the town manager, who were very gracious to show up how they were impacted. And you can see some of the challenges they had with the threatening of their conditions of their building and the safety of those buildings. Now, that beach continues out. You drive on that beach. So when we drove on it there, when we were up there, it was, you would never know that. So I show you these things. It's important to talk about when we ask you to have some place to go, because when we talk to them, we realize like this is us. This could happen. A little different situation. They're a little flatter up there, but what happened was they had to evacuate some of these buildings because of the safety of concern structurally, right? So the people that were high and dry and didn't have to worry about leaving because of the wind and damage that way, they're worried about now their building collapses. So they had to go door to door and start going through these buildings, the building officials, and start doing inspections to see how bad some of the foundations were impacted. And they had several of them that they had to go door to door in the condos and tell them that the building had to be evacuated because of structurally concern. That's good. Keep going. Next one. Their single family homes that they evacuated. He's in the middle there. You see the pool still standing. I don't know what pool company that is, but they certainly should have an advertisement for that. That's still. But that's one of their buildings they evacuated. This is one here. If we get another shot of it, that they had to evacuate. So mind you, there's people that have stayed in these buildings that didn't leave. But when they had a concern before, after the building collapsing, they left. You can see how somebody came up under some of the foundation, you know, in talking to our building official, that's what these buildings are made to do. But when you have a building that's 30, 40, 50 years old, you don't know the structure of those things. And so you're able to get in there. So those evacuations have to occur until we can make it safe. So that's kind of it. We don't want to make sure that we communicate all year. Our residents that have been here, that stay here during the year, they get that we have some really strong buildings, some amazing homes. But we want to make sure that everybody is safe. We know how to navigate through each storm that we deal with. The town has dealt with this before. Our essential personnel all are ready, prepared. They are deployed ahead of the storm. Non-essential personnel are home. COVID has really helped us, allowed us to be able to work remotely. And that's been a big help with HR, finance, and all the different things that we do, that people don't have to physically come in the office. Essential personnel work right through that. So fortunately, right now we have a great staff with our new fire chief coming on that has a lot of background in emergency management. Our building official, who not just a building official, has that same type of background in emergency response to these type of situations, and the team that he's put together through CAP. So we're prepared to work through these situations, but like we tell everybody every year, you have to take that personal responsibility, make those plans now, find those arrangements to get off the island. We keep the whole island safe while you're away. When we do evacuate and we have those orders, we man the entrance to the town. We make sure that our community stays safe until we can get you back in. So we ask that you do those things, personal responsibility as residents, and we'll do our role in the town. But that people are doing those things now, worrying about it now, thinking about it now, so they're not calling us, and we can tell you that we answer a lot of questions right when that storm is bearing down, and we'd rather do it early than at that point. So that's it, and prepared for our hurricane season. I know it's early, but it goes a long way for us, but we start talking about it now and we'll be better off for it. Any question?
Thanks for the reminders. Anybody who want to make comments first? Go ahead, Deb.
It's not really a question, but it's, while Sandy didn't hit here, we did get a fair amount of damage because of storm surge. So our buildings weren't going to come down, but there was a lot of mess. And so you can't just deal with storms that are coming to you, and you can't watch and make, because hurricanes change direction and they very often hit where you don't think they're going to hit. There was one where somebody in my building went over to the West Coast and it never hit here, but it hit there. You just have to watch. You have to watch the news, because when there's a hurricane anywhere near you, that gets top billing all the time. I've had people say, oh, we only had 2 hours notice. And it was, where have you been for the last week and a half? You know, every news station all day long is talking about this. How about you go bed? Just so you can pick it up and run out the door. A couple of days worth of clothing, some non-perishable snack type things, just so you can get out right away. And you, always
Medication.
extra pills.
Yeah,
You have to,
medication.
absolutely, you have to have the pills. And if you have a pet, make sure that you have a to-go bag for the pet as well. So that you don't have to start running all over. And good luck if you have a cat and have to catch them. What do I say to people who don't want to leave? And we've had that. People absolutely refuse to leave their apartment.
Sure. And that happens, and it happens in every municipality, and we're not gonna, break down your door and drag you out. But we try and educate them, and I think when they have those options early on to go to someplace higher and drier and off the barrier island, and then be able to get back, it becomes less stressful for them, and they make those calls a lot easier. We talk to many building managers throughout the years, and like we do every year. And when we know that one's bearing down on them, we'll give them a list and ask them to make a list of people who they know they have staying in the building. So if we have to do any type of response, we know what units are occupied and how many they may each have. So we try and keep track that way, but we have a lot of single family homes. It's hard to keep track of everybody, certainly.
I know in the last couple of years when we have had hurricanes, we locked my building down.
Yeah.
You could get out, but you cannot get back in. And because and we always have at least 1 or 2 personnel who are there. But we turn off the elevator, not on the bottom floor. And our generator runs on natural gas, so it's not that there's an issue with electricity, but you can't keep it running. You have to have somebody who's watching it, so you don't want this generator continually going. And we just found that it is safer for everybody, and if people understand they're not going to be able to get up and down an elevator, they will more likely than not decide it's a good idea to leave. That's my biggest problem is getting people out.
Yeah, Chief, okay.
And I think we need to include this in every manager's minute from now till the end of hurricane season.
We do, it'll
Stars around the world.
it'll be in managers minutes. It's the weekly news flash, the website, the cable channel. We hit you ad nauseum a little bit with it, but we can try and keep it at the forefront of everybody. That's why we're talking about it now. And
Yeah, you have to
keep it
do it overkill,
Sure.
because then there'll be somebody who said, well, I didn't know that.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Chief, I just got a question. We have 2 bedridden people in our building and they refuse to leave. They never leave, they stay in bed. Should we tell you, I guess, the apartment numbers and the names and everything if this happens?
yes,
in the future?
we have a form for that to find out who's where and what issues they may have. There's always a special needs shelter in the county. You can't just show up. It's something that you have to be pre-registered for. We put this information out before. We'll get it back out to some of the building managers. We have some elderly, but there's some specific criteria for that, and you have to be pre-registered because there is physicians, there is generators, there's a type of different facility other than just a normal shelter for the general public. So yeah.
Good. Thank you.
So I have a question. How do you sign up for Code Red?
So good question. And any information they need about it, get it through town hall. They can get it through the town's website. It's very easy to use. You can get in and fill everything out there and you're right in. You put the information, how you want to receive it, what phone numbers, emails, anything like that. So anybody can do it. You can have as many phones, but it's very easy to do. And we'll continually push that stuff out again. If you've seen it, we did it at the food trucks and we would hand out flyers and so many people did take advantage of that. We have new people in town and try and keep them abreast of what we look at during hurricane seasons.
And those messages come through text. And I
Correct.
guess if
We
you follow
don't, you'll get
Instagram-
very few from us because people start to ignore them when you start to get hit with that type of thing. We keep code red to legitimate concerns that we want you to have now, because it could be at inconvenient times. It'll come right across your phone. But certainly during any type of natural disasters, evacuation orders lifted, those type of things, flooding, any concerns. Gas main breaks, sometimes you might have seen stuff where we've done that, and we've had road closures and those things going on. So we limit those code reds to things that people really should know about urgently and keep you informed that way. During hurricanes, those will increase a little bit more than normally good. We haven't put one out in quite a while, so that shows you we can get information out pretty much generally through so many different avenues.
So if you're on Facebook, follow Highland Beach Police Department.
Town of Highland Beach, it's going to be on everything that we have, Twitter,
So
Facebook,
Instagram.
email blast, the town, we have our email
Twitter.
lists on. Yes,
Okay,
everything
so
that we put
follow
out through that.
Town of Highland
Sure.
Beach Police
And that's
Department.
going to give you, we're not going to tell you what's going on in the state, but we're going to tell you what's happening germane to Highland Beach and what you need to know. So if you didn't hear it, that's something we didn't deal with, and it's something that's not working right here, but something the county may be addressing. There's information out there.
So in the event. Okay.
Yeah, it might be a good thought, listening to this, in the packages for new residents in a building, to include a form for Code Red to automatically get them involved.
Good.
And so you had mentioned you guys are here after, I guess, can you go over what kind of police presence there is before, during, and after the
Sure.
storm?
So depending on the track and the closeness of a potential storm for us, our first responders deploy. They go home first, they take care of their own homes, and they're in here usually anywhere up to 18, 24 hours, maybe longer before the storm hits, because we got to make sure that they get here. And then once we have them, they're ours. So they'll stay with us until we release them, until the storm is clear. They work 12 on, 12 off. They bunk. We bunk over
Oh,
the
you do?
bridge.
Okay.
Yeah, so since I've been here, we haven't left the island. One of them we came close a little bit to when conditions got that bad. We actually lost everything in the town. No phone service, no cell service, no internet. The generator kept our power on, but our only communication outside was our police radio, which was working at that point. So remember, first responders will leave if this becomes a potential threat. There will not be anybody here to answer your calls. That can happen, but they're here. Once we set up, once it gets dark, once there's a hurricane, you'll see our checkpoints, and we don't let you in and out of town unless you have business here or you live here or you're coming to clean up, those type of things. But yeah, our officers, same thing with the fire department, with your other fire department. They'll be essential personnel that get mandated in. They leave their homes, their families, and they're here for the duration. The last one we did was 4 days before they were able to return and leave, until everything's done, power's back on, things are restored. They work around the clock. So our shifts actually double in size because everybody comes in.
Everyone on the force comes in?
Correct. We're all here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so you set up, like you said, checkpoints on the north end and the south end. So you are controlling who comes in.
Stopping vehicles, seeing where they're going. After a storm, once it's sunny skies, everybody wants to see what the beach looks like, and it looks like so that's the beach run that they make. And as long as we have power and people are here, it's safe. But if it's something that we're concerned about, we know we ask people to leave. We know your homes are empty. We're going to make sure that they stay safe, and we know who's in our town during that time.
Yeah, so I think that also helps with the peace of mind and willingness to leave, knowing that the police are here at
Correct.
either end and checking who can come in, and that you're overseeing the property to make
Correct.
sure there's nothing
That's correct.
bad happening.
We don't require any passes there's nothing. We're too big of a municipality, but our residents, people that have business here, our caretakers, they all know where they're going. We get their ID. They give us an address, they give us a location, and we make sure that that's what they're doing.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you
Good.
very much.
Thank you for your time.
Very
Thank
helpful.
you.
announcements. May 29th, Town Hall is closed in observation of Memorial Day. And our next meeting is June 6th at 1:30, a Town Commission meeting. So moving on to Town Commission comments, Commissioner Goldberg.
I don't have any additional comments. But
Okay.
thank you.
All right. Commissioner Peters.
Yeah, I think it was a great meeting. Love the turtles and I'm glad everybody was here and telling us about it. And I think we'll get that going and sign at maybe the next meeting, I hope, or whatever. But yeah, thank you for coming out.
Commissioner David.
Mr. Larrity, you didn't give us an update on the fire department.
Yeah, it's Chief Joseph left. Look at him running out, knowing that it was going to happen. So I'll give you a quick update again. We're progressing on recruitment on all of the appropriate job recruitment boards, making sure captains, firefighter, paramedics, drivers, working through that process. They're doing a lot of standard SOPs, policies, provisions. I think the fire marshal, Eric, does he start next week? June. So we'll have our fire marshal or community risk reduction. We'll start on there. So again, I appreciate everybody's patience, the community's patience, having to close the complex down. That is basically to do the pile work. That should be concluded at the end of this week, barring weather slowdowns, but we'll have all the piles in by the end of the week. Then we start setting the foundation elements, and then once that's in place, and about a month or so, we start going vertical. And then we'll really start seeing stuff come back out of the ground. This is, as everyone tells me, is the frustrating and slow part, getting everything up and off the ground. Piles start. Channel 99 will go dark here shortly. We have to relocate the Comcast cable, as we're anticipating hitting it sometime this week to put the piles in. But we did authorize them to do a relocation. But the Comcast is only into us. It's not servicing the community members, only into the complex, but it does provide the channel 99 stuff. So that's going to go dark here shortly for those that happen to be viewing it. Other than that, we have some next meeting on the 6th. We're going to have a big ask. I need some money. I got to pay the bills. So we're going to have a resolution to adjust the fund balance policy. We only put 4 million. We anticipated 5, but we started at 4 to be cautious. As we know, we're going to need all of it. So we need to go from 4 to 5. And then also, once we do that, recognize a budget transfer to move that $3.75 million, the remaining part, over to the general fund. We'll spend that down through the summer months, and then probably September-ish, we'll need to start pulling the draws off the Synovus banknote that we have for the other 5 million to make that happen. So everything is progressing. Other than that, I think everything is in place.
Thank you. I have no additional comments.
Vice Mayor Stern.
Yeah, just a report. I met with Kate Cotner, FPL External Affairs Manager. She gave me an overview of the services and support of the FPL. She was going to meet with Chief Joseph when she left me. She had an appointment with him, and I suggested she set up an appointment with the marshal to explore opportunities for the town. Person who was an attorney and extremely knowledgeable, and there may even be some funding opportunities for the town. So I would like her to talk to Marshall from that perspective. Oh, one other thing, if I may, the new website, I think it's outstanding. If anybody hasn't gone through it and looked at it, I think it is extremely well done.
Yeah, I would agree. The website is very easy to navigate, and it's a huge improvement. So I thought that was really good. So no other comments from me. Town Manager, do you have anything else?
Let me see. It all starts with just a few updates. We did support, I didn't get a chance to say it last time. We did support Boca Bash, the Marine unit. We issued 14 citations and 35 verbal stops and discussions with folks. So we are out there. Our presence is noted. We have now a full timer started, I guess sworn in last week. So we have a full-time Marine officer supplemented with 3-ish or more part-timers. So we should be out there. You should see a significant expansion of our presence out on the waterways as we come into the summer here, and especially on weekends and high boat use. So that's going quite well.
Town attorney? Okay. Okay, well, with that, we can adjourn. Thank you, everyone.
It's no big folder for me to sign.
No, we did it. We had a meeting last week.
Wow.
I guess some stuff to sign.
There's a